Hello, everyone, and welcome to another language and runtime community stand-up. My name is Zimo Landworth. I'm a program manager on the .NET Platform team, and today with me are...
Kathleen Dollard. I am a PM on the .NET Core team, the .NET team now.
Yeah, we made the name change a little while ago.
I know, I just like, came out, no, go away, I messed that up, okay.
Yeah, I'm Rich Lander, also a PM with these fine people on the .NET team, obviously. Yeah, so we're going to talk about some fun things today, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a bunch of new stuff that has happened between Preview 6 and Preview 7, some stuff that will happen at some point. I don't know about you, but I kind of have a hard time losing track of the schedule, so we'll see what happens.
Well, it's tricky for us and for anybody who's watching home because we have .NET previews and we have Visual Studio previews, and they're not in the same number. So I do get confused. I know the .NET numbers. I will get confused if we talk Visual Studio numbers pretty quick. So it is confusing. I don't know that we can fix that because we work on the schedules each team can go fastest on, and that's probably what you want us to. So yeah, that's what we do. But we're coming up. Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I was just going to say, I feel I need, someone says, Rich needs some drywall in his room. So I feel I need to explain. Yeah, so I have a backyard cabin that I made several years ago because my kids asked me for a playroom. Like many things I did, it's like totally over-engineered. And so for COVID, I took it over as my summertime workplace. So this building has a roof, 3 walls, and then the front wall is open to the air. So that's the story.
Why you're wearing a jacket, because it's a little chilly today in
very overcast
that area.
Yeah.
How many 8-legged roommates do you have?
8-legged roommates?
8-legged roommates.
Yes.
Like spiders?
Yeah.
That's the thing that would freak me out because you said it's an open wall, so I assume everything that has legs gets in.
Very few spiders, actually. The odd mosquito comes in at night because my wife and I like watch movies in here as well. So anyway.
Yeah.
You're a brave man.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
So
Kathleen,
we'll
I
talk
think
about-
you wanted to talk first about templates.
Yeah,
right?
let's talk about templates a little bit because, and I'm going to bring notes up here so I won't be seeing the questions, Ema. So if you can help me with that, that'll be awesome. So the templating experience, which includes both templates in Visual Studio and the .NET New experience in the CLI, has got just a ton of changes, and I won't be able to go through all of them, but I want to touch on some high points. So one thing is that template discovery has changed. And what that means is the way we find templates has changed, and it's for a couple of really big reasons. One is that starting in one of the recent Visual Studio versions, I think it was 1610, we started displaying let me explain this a little more clearly. We call them CLI templates, but what they are is templates that were installed using .NET New -- install. So templates are installed that way now appear in Visual Studio. So this was a change we'd worked on for a while. We're very happy to get it through. That's one of the drivers. Another one was that we now support optional workload templates. And you may not be terribly aware of that, but when you install an optional workload, which you might do as part of a Visual Studio workload install, or you might do from the CLI, in the .NET 6 timeframe, then when you do that, you may get templates with that. And we had to be able to find them. And they had to be aligned with the optional workload as opposed to any other installation mechanism, because the huge driving force, what is this big thing behind optional workloads, is that they update on a schedule that is not the same as either Visual Studio or .NET. So we have schedules that what we're working towards, when we're not guaranteed to be quite there yet, is the day an operating system drops in the Android world or the Apple world, that we'll be able to get that out either same day or just within a very, very short number of days to support those communities. So this is a big deal. We're super happy it's landing. And that's another thing that drove the changes to template discovery. And the last one I fear some of you may have encountered, which is we had a design that drove us to what we could only consider a bug, but it was deeply based in the design, which is that when you updated Visual Studio, all of your templates that were installed with .NET New -- install, all those templates vamooshed and disappeared. And I could explain why, and this was a deeply understood problem, but it really required a complete redesign of the template discovery process to get it fixed. So it's been there for a little while. We've known about it for a little while. I'm super happy that it's now fixed. So if you've run into that, I have to tell you that you have one more you have to install, because it's where we put them now. The old one is in the old place that disappears. So you'll have to do one more set of installs, and I'm sorry. But that's where we're at on that one. So are you seeing any questions on that, Ema?
There are a ton of questions, but they're all over the place.
Okay, if you want to call me out, or I'll cover a couple of other high-level things, and then we can go on to some other topics.
I mean, let's take the first one here. Like, Rich recently did a video on thread pool exhaustion. Is there going to be a follow-up?
Sorry, I was muted. On .NET Trace, there could be. I don't. Yeah. I don't think we did one on .NET Trace in particular. But Mike, who's the one who we did that with, who by the way is awesome. He basically said we can do whatever videos we want. So
Great idea. .NET Trace sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Do we have anything else before we get back to a couple more things on templates?
Hold on, there was one. No, I need to scroll again.
Someone said your volume is too low, Emo.
Inconceivable.
That's way better.
The
Thanks
power
for
of the
pointing.
slider. So there's one question here that was, I had some templates I installed with the CLI that still not show up in Visual Studio even with Preview 11. Is there something they have to do?
So it is sensitive to the SDK version up until we make this template discovery change in .NET 6. So I believe Preview 11, I'm a little confused about what Preview 11 is, because we're on something like Preview 6 on .NET and something like Preview 1 or 2 on Visual Studio. So if that's Update 11 Preview, then I don't think it's going to be in that. I think this is only going to be in .NET 6, which is Dev 17. I believe that to be the case because we went deeper into that. I'm not 100% sure on that, I'm afraid, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to get you that that information. Can you file an issue on the GitHub.net/templating, and then the engineers can make sure that you get the right answer, whether it's just we do have a problem and we need to know about it and thank you very much for telling us, or we just haven't quite gotten to the right alignment of versions. Because it was such a deep change, we're not backporting it.
Yeah, I suspect Preview 11 meant 1611 preview.
Yeah, that was my suspicion too, but I'm not sure on that. Anything else, or shall I talk about?
So when we say templates work from both sides, that assumes both first-party and third-party templates, right? Any CLI template is expected to show
Yes.
MBS.
Yes, that was it. So now, when you go into Visual Studio, or the CLI, you're going to see templates that come from 3 sources. They're going to come from the .NET SDK, as they always have. They're going to come from things that you personally installed, saying .NET new -- install package name, and they're also going to come from optional workloads. So you have 3 places they're coming from, which was the redesign we had to do to support. But the work to get into Visual Studio was a little orthogonal to some of the redesign work. So the redesign work did come on after we showed up with CLI templates in Visual Studio.
Yeah, I like the first party, third party comment, Emo, because in this particular case, we treat first party and third party templates prior to this change both equally well and equally badly, which I actually think is really good.
Except SDK templates. So any template from anybody.
Party, but
yeah, any template from anybody, including us, that was installed with .NET new -- install. We didn't actually kill them. You just don't know where they are. Like, Discovery doesn't find them. So yeah, it's not fun. Yeah.
And then last question is it just project templates or also item templates?
Yeah, I'm sorry. We have a really deep rethink we need to do on item templates, and I hope that we're able to do that with the time and resources to really get a lot of feedback on it, because once we go here, item templates become extremely tied to questions like scaffolding and how we may be able to make projects evolve instead of you having to make all your choices up front, and all of these things kind of squish together into the same bucket. So we're probably not going to do a lot with item templates until we really attack that problem in a big way. And when we do that, it will definitely be CLI and Visual Studio together. I can't imagine we would do that cutting out one or the other.
Can we address this question about how to target C#10?
Yeah, so yes, so I misunderstood the question for just a second. Yes, if you want to see C#10 features, then say Langver preview. And we have this weird thing that we do that is important to us, but might confuse people, which is very early previews of .NET land in, you can say Langver preview, in the previous version of Visual Studio because the new one's not ready. But then pretty quickly we switch over. So now I would highly recommend that if you want C# language versions, that you work in a Visual Studio preview as well. And the Visual Studio preview might land you in the C# Langver preview automatically. You might not have to do anything to get there.
Well, yeah, I have a question on that, because I remember this in the .NET 5 release with respect to C#9. So there was eventually a point where targeting, the Net 5.0 TFM opted you into C#9, which is, I think, what everyone wants. When will that happen with respect to .NET 6 and C#10? Because that's a little different than what you just said, because that has nothing to do with Visual Studio.
Yes. So there's 3 moving parts here. And basically, if we believe you're in preview, our intention is, but I'm not sure all the parts are going to work right, and I haven't walked through it with .NET 6. Our intention is, if you've told us through any mechanism, which could be a Visual Studio preview or a .NET TFM that's in preview, then we assume you're in preview. You probably want C# 10. But I haven't tested that in .NET 6, so I kind of hate to promise you it's there. But you can try it, and then you can just use global usings, which we might talk about a little bit today. And if global using system gives you an error, you're not in C# 10. And if global using system gives you no error, you're in C# 10.
Okay, let's continue
All right.
on with your story. Oops.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to click this, but now we're gonna answer it. Yeah. So any for .NET 6 for UWP.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Project Reunion.
Okay.
So the Project Reunion, we've been working with the Project Reunion team. They're actually making pretty great progress, and they are currently working with .NET 5. I'm pretty sure they're going to move over to .NET 6 relatively quickly, and that's our story for all things kind of UWP and the UWP WinRT XAML and all those things.
So does it look like that's going to make it into .NET 6 RTM? Do you have any idea? I think
I believe they're, yeah. So I haven't talked to them in a little while, but my belief is that they intend to ship either at the same time of us or actually a little bit before.
Super, great.
If they ship before, then they have to ship on .NET 5.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's around the same time in the Northern Hemisphere fall.
Yeah. So let's see if we can get somebody from that on the show and do a deeper dive into what we're doing with the latest and greatest Windows features. Yeah. All right. So now I'm going to share my. Okay, Emo, help me out here. I'm having a little trouble getting this on screen.
Yep, I'll just click
Can you
the
just
right button.
can you just do that for me? All right. Okay. So what I want to show you is we're working through a little bit of a challenge, and so I'd love any feedback on this. And we're kind of flipping back and forth, and so I'll tell you both sides, and I'll tell you I don't know which one we're landing on when we go to release. So we have new features in C# 10 that include a few things. It includes global usings, which I'll come back to. It includes topple namespaces, which I'm going to show you right now. So this is what happens. It's the .NET 5 console template just out of the box. And I'm not going to bother to update the language version, so we are going to get a few squiggles here. So let me just start deleting things. So okay, and then I'll just do Control-KD, which is how you reformat. And if you ever forget that, just remember it's my initials. And so the using system will go away. I'm going to leave it there for right now just to kind of minimize. I'll talk about why using system goes away in the future, but it will go away. So this will be just one line. That's it. That's all we need to create a console application now. And this is top level programs. I'm going to kind of let people go look that up because I think we've talked about it on the show before. But we're basically going to just create in the background, create the pseudo program class and a main method for you. And we still have some, we're still working on top level programs. So there's going to be a little bit of additional stuff there, but it's all around whether you can actually call main and those kinds of questions. It's not around the basics. This is what's going to, that blue line is the only thing that you need to create a console template in C# 10. So the question that we are working with and flip-flopping a bit on is whether we should change the console template, so it's the latest and greatest, or we should create a new template. And I think we're likely to land on going ahead and changing this template, changing the console template in .NET 6. And but in Preview 6, we have a app template, so you can see what it is. It looks like this. It still has using in there because we hadn't quite landed the feature that will allow us to take using out. So if you have any thoughts on this, I'd be happy to hear them. I can't tell you which way we're going to land. So if you have a strong feeling we should be one way or the other, you should definitely, either put something on the, you can put on the templating repo would be fine. If you want to get it on the GitHub, or we can have a further conversation. If you just want to put your 2 cents in right now, you can just toss it in the chat, and we'll notice from there. So yeah, we'll see which way. It's been a tough decision, and the reason is that there's a lot of tutorials out there, and that's why it's a bit of a tough decision. If we change the console template, there will probably also be a comment here guiding you to a help topic that will help you understand what just happened if it doesn't match a tutorial. Most of you all are not walking through tutorials, but some of you might work with people who are. So that's the second big area that I wanted to touch on. Do we have any questions? Keep the old console templates by default. So somebody made in the chat said they want to keep the old console template as the default. I would really like to know why. Are you concerned about people being confused because tutorials don't match, or are you concerned about something entirely different? And so I would really like to know if there's something else that, see, I know there's at least one person on each side of this in the chat right now. And so I know we're going to get feedback on both ways. And whatever we do, somebody's not going to be happy. And so we're still trying to make the right, it's kind of going to be a tightrope through this. And we just, I don't think we can please everybody on this one. If you can give us any scenarios, again, either here or in github.com, .NET templating, then that would be fantastic. And we are aware of the fact that we have tutorials and a lot of content that use the old console template. So we already are aware of that scenario. But if you have anything else, which might just be, I hate the new one, then if you could let us know, that'll be great, because we also have to decide if there's a way to get to the old one. And other than, you will always be able to say, hey, just target .NET 5 and I'll go change the project file. That'll work. So how to handle arguments to the main method. I don't have this on top of my head, but it is in the spec. It is in the way that top-level programs themselves are implemented. I have the template on the ground right now. I haven't recently looked at.
Check IntelliSense. I think you have an implicit args variable already.
Oh, okay. So we're going to just do something ugly here and just say args. Oops. Do I have one?
Here you go.
I'm not.
That's the one.
Okay, great. That's really, yeah. Okay, we do. Okay, so you've got it. You've got args there, and that is it is a string array, just as you would expect. So thank you, Emma. I knew that there was an answer. I didn't have the answer at the top of my head. All right. Anything else? So the args are just there. They're there a little bit differently. There are a few things that you really kind of can't do. You can't toss an attribute on this. Support for running program.cs without a project file. You can either search again, we love talking to people on GitHub. So github.com.net SDK in this point. That'd be a great place to either find an issue, which I think there already is on this, or go make one. So either, and when you comment on an issue, especially if you find an old issue, but you really care about it, please add a comment, even if it's nothing more than I care about this issue, because it really helps us to know people still care about something that somebody may have explained brilliantly 3 years ago, and everybody came to it and said, yep, it's already well explained, nothing I can add. Just adding I care is really super helpful to us. Okay, a beginner would not know that args is hidden. This is true. And I think that is good feedback. I don't quite know what we do around that. But we do think that for beginners also, that if your first template, the very first thing you see is namespace and using, then it's like, what are those? Why do I care? And then what's a class? I don't care about classes yet. What's method? Maybe I care. And so the idea is just to simplify that. And then in that case, they may not be taking args, but it's a great comment. Okay, so, and it is async. Somebody said async. Yes, it is async if you do an await, it is async. So that'll just take care of itself for you. And then going back, I have some notes here from it's the early draft of the template blog post. So those are changes to that. The other thing, I think I'm going to mention two other things really quick. We have changes around some of the behavior of the CLI, and I'm afraid that we're going to have changes in the CLI for a couple of releases. And that's because we have two sets of experiences we need to fix. One is around list and search and the experience when you type .NET New and nothing after it. This will eventually also give you a better way to find it, things by package than .NET. Today it's .NET New uninstalled, which is completely non-intuitive. So this set of changes, most of them are going into .NET 6. So -- list will have a new experience. It will include being able to select columns. It will include just a better layout. There's just lots of just do .NET New help, and you'll find some of that. Filtering is better, lots of stuff there. We also have an updated .NET Search, which means what's available on NuGet.org. And we've had tons of changes there, and it's also just an updated, better experience. Again, you can specify columns and that kind of thing. We've also decided to simplify the experience when you say .NET New and nothing after it. And now that is going to be a short curated list. And we're crossing our fingers that we can get resourced to do a recently used list in the future. But right now, it's just this shortened version of what we think you might want to use. We've also changed the response for .NET Install. If you've ever done a .NET Install, it gives you a full list of everything that was on your machine. That's probably not what you want right now. You just installed from this package. What was in this package? So now you just get what's in that package. So I don't want to go through everything that we're doing. It's just this gives you a flavor for the kinds of things that we're doing. And then we do have some more work. We might have people ask us about some of the things that are kind of obvious that we still have work to do we can release the templating throughout the year. That's on a quarterly cycle. So you may see improvements coming in 6.0.200, which releases in February, 300 that releases in May, and so on. So we tend to not release things in 400 because by then we're almost to the next release. So, but particularly in 200 and 300, we hope to get more template .NET New features in right there. So you might want to check in on any questions that you're curating there. And why not keep both? Make one comment. Well, this is the idea of in Preview 6, okay? And we will probably not use the name app because we think it may be misleading about something like a fancy phone app. But actually, simple is one of the things that we're talking about. Starter or start is another that we're discussing. Basic was thrown out, but I think it's a little confusing because we have a language called Basic. So that is definitely one of the routes we may go. If they have the new template under a new name, keep the old one, and then encourage people to use the new template for any, working with new users or really anything. We think the new one's better for everything. And if we get pushback that users don't believe that, we'd love to understand why, in addition to using that as input on what we actually do.
I got a comment on that, which is like right now we're just talking about the console template, but we have a whole series of other templates. So it wouldn't really be coherent to like go with like simple and classic, just using those names for console, but then not do use that same pattern for all the other templates, particularly. Yeah, so it's a challenge.
It is a challenge. However, the way we're thinking about it is that console may be in just a very special class by itself because it's the first thing somebody comes to. And so while, yes, I agree with you, that's not what we have in Preview 6, which was what we thought at the time we were doing, and we're just making sure we did the right thing. So in Preview 6, what we have is that the other templates either are updated or are in the process of being updated. So your things like ClassLib now has nullable by default. And so, these kinds of things are what we're going to see in the new templates. The idea behind this is that we think you want the latest and greatest, and we think you want a template to help us communicate to you what the latest and greatest is. And we think for new projects, nullable enabled is a good choice. So we're looking at kind of pushing that into the templates. Of course, we always want feedback on this, but we do think it's one of our best ways to guide you to new features, in addition to all that fancy Visual Studio stuff, which we love as well.
Also, I just want to jump in because I think this whole idea that we keep both, because there's two ways or two flavors of doing things. In my opinion, is just a weak stance in general, because I feel like I think the people that are complaining in chat right now are all doing .NET probably for a decade or more. So I think none of you can relate to learning C# at this point, because you're already experts in it. So when people say, oh, how do beginners discover OOP? The answer is they don't care. Like, if you're a beginner, you're still struggling with just getting basic syntax right? You want to write a for loop. Maybe you define a class with like simple things or whatever based on a tutorial, which you can do, right? You can actually paste in a class definition and start using it. So I feel like if you actually were to learn C# from scratch now, and we will actually bombard you with things like usings and namespaces and classes and structs and all of that stuff, that is a lot of concepts to just get somebody up and running with like a simple game or something that that is actually useful. And the more advanced users out of you, like, I really don't think this new console template is slowing you down, because all you have to do is Control-A delete and paste in whatever you want, and you can directly create, define a class in this file just fine. So it really boils down to like, what is the minimum thing that we expect somebody to write to get a program to work, right? And I feel like if you look around how other languages work these days, less boilerplate is better, right? Like that's just a general feel, and then you add complexity as you need it. That's the general thing that C# has been doing over the last 5 years, basically, right? Adding some syntactic sugar to reduce noise. And so I think most of the objections are also just because, oh my god, my cheese has been moved. And I think you get used to it quickly, will be my guess.
And Emo and I were part of an extended discussion on this exact topic yesterday, and so we know each other's positions on this. But what we care about right now is what you all think, and I believe that we are probably going to switch back to changing console for Preview 7, and then also take feedback on that going into RC. And we do feel like this is one of those things that we're going to eventually make a call on what goes out in RTM, and somebody will be unhappy with us. We don't think we can pull this off so everyone is just, shiny happy on this. But in order to move .NET forward, we have to sometimes make those calls where we can't make everyone happy. And at least this one is not, it's not a breaking change to any existing code, because it doesn't affect any existing code. It is I don't like thinking about breaking changes as much as causing user pain, and either approach we take here will cause user pain, and that's why people will give us feedback. And it's unfortunate, and I believe we'll make the right choice, because I believe in our processes. So yes.
Yeah. And the other thing is, like, also advanced developers keep complaining to us how the stack gets more and more bloated. Well, if you keep every single decision like old and new, well, you're not helping the bloat, right? So like simplification also usually means you have to leave things out, right? And for every given feature that we have, or for every given thing that we have, whether it's a feature or a behavior, there's somebody out there who loves it, right? So like, we cannot make everybody happy. That's the other side of it, right? So sometimes there will be changes, and some of us object to that, some of us don't. But then I feel like even for things that I personally don't like, I do like the simplicity. So like, my pet peeve has been that I don't like that the C# team changed the way you do comparisons with null, because equals null and not equals null has been around for 20 years. But I think there is benefit of saying, you go with the stream and you just change it to the new syntax and move on, because it's just better for everybody if there's one way of doing things, right? And the new thing has some minor benefits, but it's better to, from my point of view, it's better to just go with the changes than object them, because change is constant, and that's just the way reality works for us.
And
I thought a comment on this comment here from Aquatica, which is, I think this concern is fairly unlikely, because this whole feature really only applies to program.cs. So certainly if you are writing an app that is entirely contained within program.cs and you only ever do that, then I guess this case might occur. But
Right.
if you ever write any other, like if you ever have other projects, like class library projects, or you add more files to this app, like myutils.cs, then that would be the old syntax.
Right.
And then you would have seen classes and namespaces. So
Right. So that's what I just added a class. So as soon as you add a class, this is the point at which we think in an instructional flow, when you add your first class, we're not planning on changing the item template to remove namespace here. So when you add your first class, but you've already had some success, and we want to get that first moment of success. So I don't know how many of you remember your first program. I remember mine, and it was way too long ago, but I won't even tell you what the equipment was. But that first success, that magic, and we really want to make sure that if somebody is in .NET and they're right at that beginning point, that it's magic. It's not, oh crap, it didn't work again. And that's what that a lot of our thinking is around that. Now we also care a lot about people coming from other languages that are coming to .NET for the first time, and they have a different set of thinking. And we're just trying to do our best to kind of help them get past that. I can do something. And then once you can do something, you build on that. And then if you have some failures and frustrations and have to go find out what a namespace is, it's part of a flow. It's not part of, I can't succeed here. It's, I succeeded. What the heck is this? And then you go figure it out. So, yeah.
I would also say there's this general pattern that's known. It's called progressive disclosure, right? Like,
Yeah.
When you start programming, you can use ins and strings. Does it mean that the person using ins and strings immediately has to understand the difference between value types and reference types? No, because for the most part, your intuition holds up fairly well. And then yes, at some point that distinction becomes important, but does it have to be in your face on day one? Arguably not. And I think namespaces are exactly the same thing. You don't have to know there's a namespace called system where console lives if the thing is already referenced for you, right? So I feel like there's this moment of like, yes, when you want to become proficient in C#, there's concepts you have to learn, but how many of them do you have to immediately understand to be, dangerous enough to get something done, right? And I feel like that's something that we underestimate as experts because we really don't see all the stuff that we take for granted now, and we assume everybody needs to know that. But in reality, we didn't know them either on day one. We at some point learned them, right? And so I think that's another thing where I think the empathy here for beginners isn't high enough. It's like, go out, learn a different language that you've never looked at, like, I don't know, Rust or whatever Kotlin or whatever the new languages are. And then you will still be amazed how much of the stuff that you understand about the language is just inspired by you understanding some other language in depth, right? But if you're really literally new to programming entirely, there is a lot of stuff. So teach somebody else to code and then you will see.
Okay, let's. I think we need to move to some other topics, but let's do a quick lightning round through some questions. No more than 50 seconds.
And then I want to come back to this and talk about why using goes away, because that'll get us onto another topic smoothly. So, let's go do the lightning.
So I think this is actually a legit question. What's the benefit? So someone take 30 seconds to explain the benefits of this new template format.
Okay, that's what I wanted to just double check. What's the benefit of the new template format? Well, there's a bunch of things in C# that we think are improved, and this captures them. That's the benefit, is that you get to see and get suggested to you when you start a project what we think the best current mechanism is, which we think is a role templates share. Second thing is, we think what I've got up there right now is simple and pretty, and you have a lot not to worry about, and it just works. And so that is what we think is better. We do have a general sense that shorter is better. And for those of you who don't know my background, I've spent a lot of time in VB as well. And so I look at some of what we're doing, I'm going, we just kind of, cleaning things up. And so, although VB doesn't have this feature.
Okay, next question. This is about Philip's proposal that I linked to earlier.
We just have to kind of tidy things. I don't think this is going to, as far as I know, this is not in .NET 6, but it might come in late. It's something we're definitely have our eye on, but I think we wanted to, this is really important. So being able to, this is saying on the command line, it would be .NET run myfile.cs, nothing else, or possibly we'd love it if it was just .NET myfile.cs. So what we want to do is just be able to say, just create a C# file and just run it. We don't care. And we very, very much want that. We also want to do it right. And if we do it wrong first, then if we fix it later, we break people. So We try not to like get ourselves stuck in the mud on that, but also on this one, I'm not sure that to my knowledge, we're not ready to go on this one, although I could be wrong.
Okay. What about CSX?
So that is the interactive format, correct?
I guess is C# script, isn't it? Or I'm not super familiar.
There's no changes that we're announcing right now to that. So I don't have anything to say on that.
Okay, and then how does it relate to .NET Script? Or is that some
.NET Script global tool? That's not ours, is it? I don't think that's our tool. I think that's a third-party tool. I'd have to look that up. If somebody tells us it's our tool, I have to find out who owns it.
Okay. Let's cover this one again.
Okay, so I'm sorry. What? Let me come back to. I lost the stream. There we are. Okay. What's the next? What previews allow testing C#10? Do you mean assuming we just mean bring it up, play with it, find out what's there? Then you need to be in a .NET 6 preview. We don't think you need to set language version preview, but I want to tell you if global using blah semicolon gives you a squiggle under global, you're not in C#10. So then add lang preview. Lang version preview to your project file. Visual Studio, any Visual Studio Dev 17, so any Visual Studio 2022 should have C#10 in it. You may have to turn language preview on there. How are return statements handled here? I don't know exactly what you're looking for, but let's assume that you're going to return an error, a random error of 1. Then that's what you would do, and that would be fun. This can have as much code in it as you want. You can have an if statement. You can do whatever you want. This is not one line. I may have been unclear about that. One line is all you need. You can put as much in here as you want. It's a method body. So anything you can do in a method body, including local functions, can be done here. Okay, nullable will be enabled by default in the new templates. Yes. We think that is the future. We think that's the right thing for people to do. And you can always delete the line in your CSproj file since it's nice and sweet, simple little CSproj file and no longer our old giant scary mess that we had in Framework. .NET 6 is LTS. Thank you for asking, because there's 2 parts to that question. One is the question you asked. Is .NET 6 LTS? Yes, it is. So it will be in support until 1 year after the next LTS is released, assuming we stay on schedule, which we fully intend to do. That will be 3 years from the release of .NET 6. It's 2 years of, you can think about it as like 2 years plus 1 year to move. So for many people, it takes you more than 3 months to move. And so then you have a full year to move. The other part of the question is, how long will .NET 5 be in support after .NET 6 is released? And the answer is 3 months. So in February of 2022, .NET 5 will go out of support. So you may need to be planning for that as you look to how your fourth quarter and late fourth quarter, early first quarter planning for your organization is. And we have at least one person who loves that we're enabling this. We think it's the right thing to do. I'm happy that we waited a while to do it. Destroy all the non-generic types. I don't like destroying types, you know, but seems radical. Okay. Anything else for our lightning round? Is there anything for anybody but me in the lightning round? Yeah. How does the runtime detect the main args entry point? You know, behind the scenes, this doesn't change. We haven't changed the runtime. The runtime does exactly what it did before. What's changed is that behind the scenes, there is what we call unspeakable, which means some gobbledygook. So when we create a symbol name that we do not want users to use, we call it unspeakable, and there's a mechanism to create unspeakable symbol names. So we have an unspeakable I don't know what we're doing in namespace. There's an unspeakable class name, and then I think we're using main. I would assume we're using main.cs for the actual method name. And so anyway, that's how we get here. So there's no change to the runtime. Is there any more?
This one's probably more for me. So I know what the portable thread pool is. I'm not too sure exactly how it relates to VS 2022. But basically what happened is there is a thread pool in the product in Core CLR. The portable part of it is any C++ isms were removed from it, and so it's just pure C code so that it could be portable to Mono, which is all C. I believe they don't use any C++, and I believe as is suggested here that work was done for Preview 1, and now that same thread pool is in both Core CLR and Mono, and that's kind of the end of the story. It's not really intended as like a feature you super interact with, and I don't think it has anything to do with Visual Studio at all. Actually, here's a good one. I can take this one too.
Go for it.
So I don't exactly have anything to announce on this per se, but we've been working on a project that we want to start talking about, which is we've been calling it like NuGet package incoherency, and the easiest way to think about it is like you'll get these error messages from NuGet for package grabs that NuGet can't reason about, but that the package grabs themselves are not necessarily quote unquote wrong. They just don't align well with NuGet's algorithm. And so we've been working on a plan for that. So it's basically somewhat similar to Java package shading, except not that. So I know that's super vague, but meaning it's part of it is trying to solve that exact same problem, but we're not adopting that same solution. So it's effectively solution-wide NuGet versioning of a kind. There's also some other projects that I'd like to take on, for example, like, I see all these changes coming to all these repos with Dependabot, updating NuGet packages. I largely think that's terrible, meaning the reason for it is good, which is like, get yourself up to date, but mutating source control like constantly for these package updates, I think is terrible. And so I'd love it to be the case that you could subscribe, and I'm not describing like the final way, we haven't even started talking about this yet, but this isn't the design, this is just to give you an idea. I'd love it to be the case that you could subscribe to basically almost like partial lock files for your dependencies, and then at restore time, those could be included in the graph calculation, NuGet package graph calculation, so that basically Dependabot would be at restore time, and like what was in Git would be not interesting. And we could basically kill something like Dependabot for .NET. I think that would be awesome. So we'll see. I'm not sure if everyone agrees with me. Okay, you want to talk about your other stuff, Kathleen?
Yeah, we can. I mean, I think several of us have seen this. So in C# 10, you can do this. Global using, and I'm going to say system here. Okay. So what this would do is now system is available both in. I am not in C# 10. I told you that you would know if you were not in C# 10. I'm not in C# 10. This would be legal if I was in C# 10. All right. So we're playing around with the idea of implicit usings. And what that means is that this line and several like it, but we don't have a final list, and several like it would be moved into the SDK. So what that means, that is why this template can be this simple. You will be able to opt out because there may be ambiguity problems, and we're working on being able to remove things. We're working on finalizing it. I think it'll be pretty complete when it goes out. But this idea that, and I have to say, like VB, that you will be able to have a set of the most common things. So if you were to look at your projects, how many files say using system as the first line? And how tired are we of seeing using system as the first line of a file? And how many times is the second or third line using system.collections.generic or using system.link? And so there's just a set of things that we use a ton. And the idea here is for you to not have to enter that set anymore. We are working on finalizing the set. There'll be, it's a little bit more complex feature than I'm making it, but the net effect is you should have the usings that you expect in a given context. The most common usings for that context will be there. So if it's a web project or a desktop project, the most common usings will already be there for you. And we are looking forward to seeing what people think of it. So I think it's great. You know, it's like, finally, you know, this simplifies life. I don't want to see all these things in all of my files. And I hope all of you feel the same way. So I'm not exactly sure what you're going for there. If somebody understands this more than I do, then feel free to jump in, Richard or Emo. So global namespaces. Oh, I got it. You want a global namespace like global? We have thought about this. Okay. Again, another VB feature. And so what we're basically talking about here is a default namespace. There are some reasons it would be different than VB in terms of how namespaces work between the two of them, which, you know, aligning with files and some other things. But this would be effectively a default namespace that would say that if I don't define a namespace in a particular file, so if I was to come over here and and I was to take this line out, I'll leave the squiggle, the curly for a minute. If I took that out, this would no longer be in an empty namespace. It would now be in the default namespace, which would be console.5 without having to be in the file. So that's what a default namespace is. No, we don't have it for .NET 6. So we're definitely talking about it. It's a great feature. Feel free to go to, on that one, feel free to go to either C#Lang or that's .NET, GitHub.NET C#Lang with sharp written out as a word, or .NET GitHub.NET /Roslyn. And in either one of those, say that you want that feature. If you do, we'd love to hear from you. That'd be fantastic. Next one. You know, the answer is yes. And the only thing is, we made a decision. I think for this decision is, you know, where we're at right now. Let's say that everything, we're still preview. Everything is like, hey, where we're at right now. It's going to be under the same name as VB because we felt like adding a new keyword effectively in MS Build was not the right way to do this. So it is going to be under imports. Which is just, you know, once you learn it, it'll be there. This isn't something we think is going to be a common feature, and we're working on where we hope to land is you'd be able to either add or remove them, and that would be using a normal include or remove as you would in anything else in your CSproj file. So yes, we do hope that you'll be able to change it there. Yes, okay, I'm happy to say you are correct. .NET 5 will not explode in February. It's kind of that if something in the universe happens where it would explode, we're not going to fix it. That's really what the story here is. So if we find something broken in it, or even if it has a vulnerability, and it's really important for people to realize that. So we will not explode it. It will still be there. You can still use it. But if there is something broken, which includes a security fix, if something's broken in it, we're not going to fix it. And that's what support means. So for some people, that's very important. And for others, they're like, yeah, let me just keep working. So we absolutely will not. And by the way, Emo, that's the last thing I think in my code. If you want to bring us up big and kill that code window that people have been staring at for so long, I'm right tired of it. So yeah. Are we going to have global fields? I do not think that is anywhere on the agenda that I can think of. And if you want to go to C#Lang and explain how that would differ from the things that we do have there, that would be probably useful. If you could give a scenario for that, that'd be super helpful. Build smaller compilation files.
I think the answer is no.
No, everything is the same. I mean, we're really doing generation magic, and you're going to see some of this for the next couple of releases. We got Source Generators. Source Generators v2 comes in, so there's some significant internal improvements to Source Generation in the C# 10 timeframe. It's in the compiler, so strictly speaking, it's not language, but that's fantastic, and you're going to see a lot of usage of that, and that's going to drive features like the implicit global usings.
Yeah, this one is this come up a couple more times. Project Reunion is the answer to all these UWP questions, and I believe it's intended to ship in Northern Hemisphere fall.
Yeah, and hopefully we will get somebody on the show that can focus on that for one show. I think that would be a fantastic topic.
Okay, we just have a few more minutes, so what do we want to talk about next in our few more minutes?
I really stole all the time for the stuff I want to talk about, but I'm super excited about these things that you're going to find in Preview 6 and Preview 7. So yeah.
I think that's fine. I think we focused on one of the most custom visible ones. I think Rich, you had a design document you wanted to talk about.
We might as well.
Do you want to mention ARM64 as well in relation to that?
Yes, they're definitely related. So here, I'll just post a link to this design doc.
Do you want to present the screen maybe, or no?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Let's see if I can figure out my mad skills for that.
Well, if you put it in the comments, Emma should be able to bring it up on the screen while you're talking.
Okay, that would probably be better. So I'll give the update on. Okay, we have a problem with one user who's like, we'll just block that user. That's not what I intended to do. You can fix that emo.
Did you just block Visual Studio?
No.
Not quite.
So, yeah, there's two different topics. One is what's going on with ARM64. So this is Windows ARM64 and Mac OS ARM64. So the short update there is the product works. It's worked for quite some time in .NET 6 previews. In fact, Windows ARM64 worked even in .NET 5. Now, we have one huge problem, which is you can't install. So these new OSs bring x64 emulation with them, which is super cool. But today, our installers don't allow you to install both x64 and ARM64 at the same time. If you install both of them, you basically kill your install, and you have to delete the whole thing and start over again. So right now, you have to choose to go x64 only or ARM64 only. If you go ARM64 only, say on Mac, then you can only use .NET 6 and above. If you go x64 only, then you can use all versions, but then you have to go in emulation land, which is actually surprisingly good. But so anyway, we're still intending on fixing that for .NET 6, but that's an outstanding issue to solve. So, and once we fix it, then you'll be able to mix and match to your heart's content, and it will all work correctly. So that's that. And then separately from that, or related but different, the goal is to enable you to install the ARM64 SDK and not need to install the x64 SDK, and then be able to do all your work for both x64 and ARM64 runtimes from the ARM64, in brackets, native architecture SDK. So that's the intended experience. The CLI today doesn't enable that naturally. And so a group of us have been working on a plan to enable that. And as part of that, like architecture targeting in the CLI has never been super good. So as part of this project, we basically said, okay, well, what would a good experience look like? And let's try and enable that. And so that's what this document talks about. So just I guess I'll just provide one tiny bit of backstory, and it's really in the first paragraph is like most of the platforms that exist today are either architecture neutral in nature. So, you know, any app platform that deals with source files like JavaScript, Python, things like that, those would naturally be architecture neutral in nature. And then we have other ones that are architecture specific, and those tend to be more the native compiled ones like Go, Rust, C++. And then we have a very few in the middle, which can do both architecture neutral and architecture specific. .NET is clearly one of those. Java a little bit, but actually less so. It's actually leans, I think, more to architecture neutral. So we try and do those equally well. And there's reasons why you would want one or the other. And so this proposal intends to lean more heavily into both of them, but also have a greater separation between the two, which we don't today, and that's actually a big part of the problem. So, and then one key thing is there's breaking changes in this. The changes in .NET 6 are entirely additive, meaning not breaking. There are 2 significant CLI breaking changes in .NET 7. They're necessary in order to deliver this experience. Obviously, people can push back against the breaking changes, but then we won't be able to deliver the experiences here. Yeah, so that's the story.
So one other thing about this, if you want to look at the document, is that we had to work at how to minimize the pain from these breaking changes, and we think we landed in the right spot. And part of that is to introduce a new warning in .NET 6 that will then foreshadow what we're doing in .NET 7. So we're taking 2 releases to do this more gently, because we think we can afford to on this particular problem. And so that's it also pushes the breaking change into .NET 7, where you have a little bit longer. You're just in a different mindset than you are in .NET 6 in terms of moving on. So yeah. Ima, I wonder if you want to answer the hardware intrinsics question.
Yeah, so basically we do have some improvements there. Like it's mostly for the number of intrinsics. Like Tanner has been busy adding more and more for them. I'm not quite sure what particular improvements you're looking for. Like I think that the code gen is as you would expect, right? It's an intrinsic at the end of the day. So yeah.
Well, it seems to be talking about. I think the focus is on inlining hardware intrinsics.
Oh,
inlining. I'm. Can we not inline?
I mean,
intrinsics, is that a rule?
No, because I mean, like basically when you call an intrinsic function, right, the call set is replaced with that instruction, right? So I guess it's kind of the method you are writing, can that be inline? And I think the answer would be yes, would be at least my expectation. I mean, inlining in general like has limitations today, right? Because we don't inline super aggressively usually, because we try to minimize code size. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the story is on that. One thing on hardware intrinsics. So we have this new CrossGen 2 mode, which allows you to specify the SIMD instruction set. So we have a whole new build with this other feature called Composite, but we're glomming 2 features together: Composite ready to run images and higher level SIMD instruction sets. And we're hoping, haven't 100% landed this. Yeah, this is basically my feature of shipping those in our container images as the primary release vehicle. So for Intel and AMD, it would be AVX2. We're still talking about what the story is going to be for ARM64. And that's primarily a startup feature. So, okay, well, it's 11 o'clock.
I have one more thing to say that is really quick. Sorry. Somebody just said something somebody said something wrong on the internet. I just want to real quick say this. Yeah. So non-LTS is 3 months after the next major release of any type, it's generally going to be an LTS. So non-LTS is in support for 15 months, not 18 months. It's in support until February 2022. Just want to make sure that since that went out in the chat from somebody that we made sure that everybody was clear on that. Yeah. So just wanted, sorry, VJ, I didn't mean to call you out. I just want to make sure everybody's straight on this because it's going to, I don't want it messing up anyone's Christmas plans. That's what's on, on my mind. Plan for it early and all will be good. All right. That's it. It was a fun show, folks. Let's, I want to thank everybody for coming. It was fantastic questions today. That was great. Really made it fun for us. So thanks so much for your involvement there. And thanks, Emo. Thanks, Rich. This was a great, fun morning.
For sure.
Sounds good. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Take care.